nonfiction and STEM fans, it's Kirsten Larson, author of Woodwire Wings and A True Wonder, here with another nonfiction or STEM book review. So one of my favorite holiday traditions growing up with as my kids grew up was to read a holiday picture book every evening, kind of like a picture book advent calendar. And when my children were very little, I would wrap the books in paper, and every night they could pick a book, unwrap it, and we would read it together. So reading holiday picture books and now middle grade books is one of my favorite things to do. So I was very intrigued to hear this title, Dear Mr. Dickens by Nancy Churnin, illustrated by Bethany Stancliffe, because of course this reminds me of A Christmas Carol and Ebenezer Scrooge, which is one of our favorite stories. So this is, Nancy Churnin at her best, digging up little snippets from history that none of us have heard of. And she starts by putting the reader in the shoes of the protagonist. She says, Nancy writes, think of someone famous you admire. What would you do if that person said or wrote something unfair? Would you speak up? Would you risk getting that person angry? Eliza Davis did. So she goes on to tell us that Charles Dickens is the most famous writer of the day in these Victorian times. Eliza loves a lot of his writing. She admires what he does, shining a light on people like Ebenezer Scrooge and Tiny Tim and his family who need care. But she realizes there's a problem. She's read his book Oliver Twist about a poor orphan, and there's a character in there called Fagin, who Dickens describes as the Jew, and instead of calling him by his name, he calls him the Jew over and over and over again, and he is a selfish, cruel, and ugly character. So Eliza is concerned, life is hard enough in the 1860s for Jewish people, so she's concerned that this is not going to help the cause of Jewish people. So she decides she has to say something, and she writes him a letter, and she waits for him to respond. Well, it doesn't go well at first. Dickens doesn't respond, or he does respond, but doesn't respond in the favorable way that she wants. So what does she do? Does Eliza give up? Of course not. She tries again. She reasons with him, calling back to A Christmas Carol, where Scrooge is visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. She kind of takes a similar approach, showing him how this is going to cause, what he's done in the past that's worked well, how he's causing problems, and how people are going to remember him in the future if he doesn't change his ways. And then she meets with success. He writes a new story with an important character who is Jewish and also incredibly kind. And she knows that she's made a difference. So this is a really great book on so many levels. First of all, it would be a great book to read alongside either Oliver Twist, or if you're in a holiday mood, read it alongside A Christmas Carol. And it's also got great messages for students about how powerful they can be with their pens and their words and protesting. It really empowers young readers to make change in their world, just like Eliza Davis. So I highly recommend Dear Mr. Dickens by Nancy Churnin, illustrated by Bethany Stancliffe.